Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. Talking of bitterness, I mean, I think of a sign of just how bitter Democrats are about Trump's influence in his first term and their concern about his ability to keep influencing the judiciary. Biden's now offering one last gift on the way out the door, and that is a veto threat. A little history here on this. He's threatening to veto a bill to create more judgeships. And the history here is that courts around the country are overburdened and facing a real shortage of federal judges. As of March 2023, there were nearly 700,000 pending cases in federal district courts across the country. That's compared to 1990 when there was close to like 250,000. And the reason 1990 matters is because that was the last time Congress took action to address a shortage of judges. So here we are again. And last year, the Judicial Conference, which is a policymaking body for federal courts, recommended that Congress create 66 new district court judgeships. And a group of bipartisan senators got together to put together just such a bill. And that group included conservatives and progressives. It passed the Senate unanimously in August. It went to the House. It was expected to pass with flying colors. Instead, it got delayed until after the election, and then Democrats backed away. It did pass with 29 Democrats, but not nearly the numbers suggested or expected. And now Biden is threatening to veto it. Let's just listen to Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy talk about this on Fox News.
We need more federal judges. It's very expensive to litigate. When your case takes 4 years to go to court, it becomes 2 and 3 times as expensive. It's a bipartisan bill, but President Biden and his team don't want to allow it to become law simply because a Republican administration would get to appoint some of the judges. It's the last spasm of a lame duck. It's a very cynical spasm by the president and his people. I wish they wouldn't do it. I wish they'd put the country first, but I think it's going to happen.
Bill, is that the cause of the turnaround? Why have Democrats suddenly soured on this legislation?
Well, they soured on it for a simple reason. Donald Trump was elected. Look, Republicans aren't blameless. The House didn't pass this until I think December 12th, sometime last week. And you can imagine how hard it would have been to get through in the summer if the opposition were saying you're going to give Joe Biden 22 more judges. They passed it, but if it had gone through in the summer when no one knew the outcome, would have been better. That said, that is what a president is for, to rise above the petty politics, especially when you're a lame duck. You don't have to run for re-election and so forth, and do the right thing, fulfill a need. There are as many Democrats as Mitch McConnell that have come out and pointed to the need for more judges. You know, justice to be justice needs to be timely and within the reach of ordinary citizens, right? So when you delay this, you're really taking a blow against fairness of the system if people have a threat hanging over their heads and they can't get rid of it. So I think Joe Biden really failed. When he came into office, he seemed to sign all these executive orders based on the principle, what did Trump do? I'll do the opposite. On the way out, he seems to be the same logic. If it would help Trump, I'm against it. And I think that's one reason why he was removed and the party lost the election.
Yeah, and just to point out how this would actually work, to be clear, the people who crafted this legislation, I thought they did it very delicately. Those additional 66 judges would be added in 6 waves every 2 years from now until 2035, thereby guaranteeing that numerous different presidents and senates would get to name and confirm the initial occupants of those seats. What seems to really be annoying Democrats at the moment is that Donald Trump, because of those 2-year splits, the first one, if this were to pass, would actually come immediately in 2025. And then he'd get to do it again in 2027. So he'd get to name the first 2 tranches. Probably it equals more than 20 judges. Now, I agree with you, Bill. It probably would have been better if House Republicans had passed this before the election. I think it would have given them some more credibility. That being said, I would note that Senate Republicans voted unanimous for this back in August at a time when essentially the entire Democratic and media establishment was assuring the nation that Kamala Harris would absolutely be the next president of the United States. Colin, you watch the courts a lot. How big of a deal is this lack of federal judges, and what are some of the problems those caseloads are causing in courts?
Yeah, I think it's, I liked Bill's adjectives earlier that this was all sort of bitter and antagonistic and short-sighted. I think that's certainly true here. As you said, this would have been the first time we've added judges in about 30 years, and the numbers really are calling for that change. Since 1990, last time we looked at this, the U.S. population has increased by about 34%, and the caseload of the federal courts has grown by about a third as well. But the number of judges just haven't changed at all. So there are so many backlogs and delay. There's currently only a little more than 600 district court judgeships, and it's just not enough. And, the thing that really bothered me, honestly, about President Biden's statement this week in backing away from this legislation, saying he would veto it, was that he said essentially that there's no point in adding any more district court positions because there are still existing judgeships that have been held open or where nominees haven't been confirmed, and that's just, it's obnoxious, first of all, but it's also just kind of a straw man argument. As we've discussed, Biden's on track to break President Trump's record for the number of district court judges confirmed. So those slots are getting filled, and it certainly doesn't even come close to addressing the backlog that we're seeing in the federal courts.
Yeah, it was petty. One last thing I just mentioned too is this is a very rare case of bipartisanship in Congress. We don't get enough of that these days. So it's really a pity if Biden does go and veto this bill. Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Bill. We want to thank our listeners. We will be back tomorrow, as we are every weekday. If you like the show, please hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to write to us, you can at pwpodcast@wsj.com.